Our time at the Mos Eisley Cantina is coming to a close. In our previous visit, we followed the tales of 4 familiar creatures and 1 off-worlder. Through Jerry Hancock's story, we learned how Greedo assembled a musical crew to perform for Jabba at his palace. And that crew interestingly resembled action figures from a very memorable Sears-exclusive playset. And Danny Katzel gave us his backstory on Jenny, a mysterious woman who appeared next to Han Solo right before the smuggler met Luke and Obi-Wan. If you're not familiar with Jenny, it's because she never appeared in the 1977 film, but can be seen in the unused black and white footage from the original shoot. To craft her, Danny went beyond the given name Jenny, making the character mission-minded. There's a reason she's in the cantina after all. And in the first episode, we saw the world of Tatooine through the tense relationship between Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan in Jason Wasulko's story. And we were treated to a deep look at regret and the power of friendship through Hannah Bennett's depiction of Kabe and Muftak. And I offered my perspective on War the Bartender, why he runs the cantina a certain way, and how he turned a bad situation into a resourceful one. Today, as we celebrate Last Call, we have 3 more stories to share with you. Thanks to Sean Moynihan, we'll be working the tavern's night shift with Ackmena, the beloved bartender from the holiday special. From there, we'll join author Rich Alott as we follow the snaggletooth Takeel on an important mission through the streets of Mos Eisley. And we'll wrap up our time at the cantina with a special look at the Hammerhead Ithorian alien known as Momo Nadon, courtesy of Adam Throne. And these 3 episodes are the audiobook version of what I believe is one of the best Star Wars swag projects ever created. Jason Wasulko, the co-creator of the Rogue Fun Weekend, brought all of us together to make an anthology of some of the Cantina patrons for a hard copy book titled Tales of Scum and Villainy. The book was similar in scope and in design as the Tales from Star Wars series, whose first volume was published in 1995. And today, in 2026, we continue that wonderful, imaginative tradition with Tales of Scum and Villainy. 8 passionate Star Wars fans, 8 different Star Wars characters, 8 unique Star Wars stories. This is the 3rd and final part of that audiobook series. This is a collaboration that pulls from the best parts of Star Wars and the collecting community. This is Tales of Scum and Villainy. And this is Star Wars Prototypes and Production.
From Coruscant to Tatooine, and every planet in between, Star Wars, Prototypes and Production, with your host, David Quinn.
Vader.
It's a trap!
Yes, Master.
Right.
Well, we're gonna have company!
Have to stand and fight.
The more you tighten your grip, Tom, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
The Force will be with you, always.
To say that Sean Moynihan is a light within our Star Wars community is an understatement. Sean is a member of the Empire State Star Wars Collectors Club and a fan of all vintage and modern Star Wars action figures. Every November, Sean is part of a group that hosts a watch-along of the Star Wars Holiday Special, where the proceeds for the event provides toys for children through Toys for Tots for the holidays. The event has grown substantially over the years. In addition to a poster made specifically for the watch-along, collectors from multiple clubs get together in person, where they trade swag and some laughs for the significant fundraiser. And it's only fitting that someone who has such an appreciation for the holiday special would tackle a story about Ackmena the bartender. Here is our friend Sean Moynihan with a tale that will make even the hardest of hearts warm to the world of the holiday special.
Happy Hour, Ackmena's Tale. The afternoon shift at Red Bin's Cantina had already been one for the books, and as the punishing twin suns outside began to set, things showed no sign of slowing down. Boonta Eve was one of Tatooine's most festive celebrations on the calendar. The Boonta Eve Classic, the notorious annual pod race overseen by the Hutts, was renowned throughout the Outer Rim for the high-velocity maneuvers and savage tactics of its contestants. If similar races hosted on worlds like Aquilaris and Ando Prime were a bit more family-friendly by comparison, Tatooine's annual blood sport of breakneck speeds was anything but. It was therefore no surprise that thousands of the galaxy's rowdiest beings flocked to the desert world for the yearly pod race, filling every bar and restaurant during the week's festivities leading up to the main event. Ackmena the bartender suffered no such fools. "Gentlemen!" she barked above the din of thirsty customers, all jockeying for position and waving various appendages for attention. "Calm yourselves and show some patience. I'm only one woman!" "I'll say," yelled Kelbo, the southern Nikto seated at the bar. He and Zutmore, the Snivian, guffawed at the jab. On a normal day, Ackmena would find the pair almost endearing, if a bit annoying. The two often giggled like a pair of Aquilish schoolgirls, but at least they were steady drinkers. She flashed them both a stern look. "Just know that I despise you both right now," she growled, before breaking into a half grin. As she finished filling the latest mug of rocket fuel, the house's featured specialty cocktail on Boonta Week, she handed it over to Dratun the Gotal, another regular at Red Bin's. She felt the coarse digits of his claws as he slipped the credits into Ackmena's hand. "Nice tip, fella, nice tip," she frowned. "Thanks. I'll be sure to buy myself something extravagant." She tossed the single credit into the tip jar, scanned the sea of eager faces, pointed at one and yelled, "What'll it be?" "Mantelian slip," the Twi'lek replied. "Dry." She nodded and pulled a pale bottle of Corellian Quilitel from the speed rack. "Great," she thought. "A complicated cocktail when they're three deep at the bar." The impatient growls and howls only grew louder. Years of serving drinks to a wide array of species had taught her a thing or two about crowd control, but managing this lot was getting tougher by the hour. It didn't help that Yemek Tonmore, the other bartender who was supposed to be on shift with her, had quit just 2 days ago to go sling drinks at Chalman's Cantina. The Red Bin and Mos Eisley's larger, arguably better-known watering hole were sometimes mistaken for each other by off-worlders, but in fact were situated on opposite sides of town. Those who frequented the Bin, as its regulars fondly regarded it, were usually the type of beings who wished to keep a very low profile, drink themselves into a stupor, or both. Ackmena couldn't blame Yemek for skipping out for a better payday at Chalman's. She knew the crafty Wookiee paid his bartenders a little better than usual on this busiest of weeks. Still, it left her solo behind the bar on Boonta Eve, during happy hour no less. "Rocket fuel coming in," came a voice from behind her. Socio Kakra, the Bin's diminutive barback, appeared with 2 large pitchers of the sunset-colored fluid. She reached up and placed them on the back bar, removing the 2 empty ones that sat beside the standard array of bottles. "At least there are some people I can count on," Ackmena thought. The bartender had been friends with the Darfwil for years, back to the days they spent driving supply transports behind enemy lines on Tabrin during the Clone Wars. As the top of Socio's ever-present cap barely met Ackmena's midriff, the taller of the two always took the controls. But in those days, Socio was about the best side gunner anyone could ask for. "Thank you, friend," she murmured, keeping her back to the bar. "Keep 'em coming." As Socio nodded and slipped away, there was an enormous crash as an airborne glass flew past Ackmena's head, smashed against the bar wall behind her, and rained glass on her shoulder. She spun around in fury. An angry voice roared, "Just who do I have to kill to get a drink around here?" A hush fell over the bar. The band stopped mid-song, and every creature turned to regard the scene. To human species, Shistavanen wolfmen always looked angry, but this one was much bigger than usual, and he already had a few drinks in him. Ackmena knew better than to back down. "That would be me, Shaggy," she said icily. "Not that you'll get the chance." The drunken wolf man scornfully laughed, then caught movement in his peripheral vision. He turned his head slightly to spot Socio standing on the bar about a meter away, hoisting a Jawa ion rifle aimed directly at his face. The creature turned back to glare at the bartender. "Now get the hell out of my bar!" Ackmena snarled. "Now!" Byron the Talls, another frequent patron of the bin, sidled up beside the wolfman and put his paw on the offender's shoulder. He angrily shrugged it off, but the Talls, who had already had more than his share of cocktails but was no less meaner for it, kept pace beside him as the other crept to the door, glowering at the bartender as he left. After what seemed like an eternity, Ackmena nodded at the band, which immediately struck up an upbeat tune. She shouted, "All right then, who's next?" It was well into the wee hours before things began to wind down. It had been a hell of a night, but a profitable one. Some of the usual patrons remained long after the seasonal crowd had packed it in. As she wiped the bar down, Ackmena tried her best to ignore Seban Viken, the green-skinned humanoid Hamidras, and the Cathar Mir Ro, as they engaged in an endless discussion about Jawa mating rituals. Some things she simply did not need to know. Rungs, the Tintinna, sat alone in the corner of his favorite booth, nursing his drink as he often did. Even in a galaxy full of unusual creatures, the bin's regulars often gave the rat-like creature a wide berth, which Ackmena always found ironic, as the Tintin was by far one of its least dangerous customers. Byron the Talls, who had passed out face down at his table more than an hour ago, required Ackmena's assistance in getting up and out the door. As she strode back behind the bar, Ackmena wiped her hands with a rag as a humanoid male at the end of the bar finally got up to leave. She suddenly realized he'd been quietly sitting there for hours. "Come back soon," she chirped as he slowly headed toward the door. "I'll be waiting." Ackmena saw the figure stop for a second, keeping his back to her, and his pace quickened as he left. Her brow furrowed, she shrugged and continued loading glasses into the hydro cleaner. "They only get stranger around here," she mused. If Coruscant was the world that never slept, Tatooine during Bunta Week could give the galaxy's core world a run for its money. Mere hours before sunrise, fireworks continued to intermittently pop and blossom overhead as Ackmena locked the bar's front door and headed for home. Ludlow, a Rodian regular at the bin, once again accompanied her for the walk back home to Delkin Ridge, just outside of town. "I don't understand why you can't settle down with some fine human male," he was saying as they walked the deserted streets. "Then you wouldn't need me to walk you home at night." She smiled patiently. Anyone who was a true friend to Ackmena knew that it was wiser not to assume anything about her. "Ludlow, every word of that sentence was wrong," she said. "And incidentally, I don't need you to walk me home. I don't need anyone. I'm perfectly fine by myself." The Rodian sniffed. "I don't doubt that. Still, well, a grating voice barked from behind them. Ackmena did her best to keep her composure as she turned, and saw the wolfman carrying a nearly finished bottle of seafoam green aqualish brandy. The creature stalked toward the pair. You won't believe the night I've had, he slurred, wiping blood from a visible scar on his chest. It started when I got thrown out of a bar for no reason! Take it easy now, Ackmena said, backing away. There's no trouble here. Ain't there? The wolfman shouted, grabbing Ludlow by the throat and lifting him inches off the sand. The bottle clattered to the ground. Leave him alone, the bartender yelled. She picked up the bottle and brandished it at the creature. I'm not bluffing! The wolfman turned his attention to her. He grinned, baring his teeth before tossing the Rhodian aside. Panicked, Ludlow scampered to his feet and ran. Gutless Rhodian, Ackmena thought. Heartless. He wiped his muzzle. You must really want to taste blood then, huh? He growled, stalking toward her. The wolfman slowly crossed his arms and then suddenly split them, tilting his head and baring his fangs as he rushed in for the kill. Ackmena stood firm, her fists clenched on the bottleneck. Her eyes then went wide as a towering figure rushed up behind the wolfman, its figure silhouetted against the streetlight. One arm quickly wrapped around the creature's throat, while she could see the other lodged against the back of its neck. Both arms squeezed hard. Incensed, the wolfman thrashed but was quickly overpowered as blood stopped flowing to its brain. Ackmena's attacker collapsed in a whining heap, alive but unconscious. In his place stood the giant humanoid, who was barely breathing hard from the effort. He had to be at least 2 meters tall. At first, he said nothing. Finally, he gestured at the wolfman, looked at her, and murmured, Sleep. Ackmena was stunned. She dropped the bottle and staggered toward him, and he caught her with ease as she stumbled. She stared up into his pale, passive face. He gently took her hand. Hurt? He asked in a low, rumbling tone. No, I'm not hurt, she stammered. Thank you. He tapped his chest with his fingers. Torque. Thank you, Torque. She realized she was still shaking. I owe you my life. He tilted his head and looked at her quizzically. It was only then that she noticed that her rescuer's clothes were torn in places, and that he smelled like a bantha's backside. Ackmena squinted. Torque, where do you live? He stared back, expressionless. Torque live nowhere. The bartender took his hand in both of hers. Not anymore, she said insistently, steeling herself. Torque, you're coming with me. Hey y'all, Sean here. Thanks for listening to Ackmena's Tale. It was a privilege to be asked to join in this project, and I hope you enjoyed my contribution. The holiday special is near and dear to me. As some of you know, I run a virtual charity watch-along of the show to raise money for Toys for Tots, and we'll be doing it again this November. If you'd like to join us, feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to get you the info. It was great fun to add to the lore of the bar glimpsed in the holiday special, which here we've named Red Bin's Cantina. Red Bin is an anagram of Binder, as in Steve Binder, the second director of the holiday special after original director David Quinn left the project over creative differences. Similarly, the name of the other bartender who recently quit the Red Bin, Yemek Tonmore, is an anagram for Mickey Morton, the actor who plays Torque, the bouncer. I'm a huge fan of the original Tales books, especially Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina and Tales from Jabba's Palace. I highly recommend them both. When I needed a villain for the story, incorporating a Shistavinan wolfman was a must. I came up with the name Byron for the big, white, furry Tals when I thought, you know what would be a funny name for him? Brian. Brian the Tals. So I just switched 2 letters around, and he became Byron, and I was home free. Recording the audio version of this story was a total blast, and I have to give props to my musical partner of 40 years, Alan Miller, for his guidance while we recorded. Recording the take of the line, "I'm only one woman," was one of the funniest things ever. I did my best to convey B. Arthur's aesthetic while delivering the lines. When I was doing my research on her for inspiration, I learned that B. Arthur served as a truck driver for the U.S. Marine Corps Air Station in Cherry Point, North Carolina between 1944 and 1945. With this in mind, I thought it was only proper to include the line about her driving supply transports on Tabrin during the Clone Wars. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all of this and that it made you smile. I'll see you kids at Rogue Fun 2, Electric Boogaloo. Cheers.
Rich Alott is a Star Wars fan, collector, and author. And for his chapter, he settled on a novel approach. Rich wanted to write a story that took place at the same time as the events on Mos Eisley in A New Hope, that would play out in real time. He also wanted a character that would go beyond the cantina and around the spaceport. And for this exercise, he chose the snaggletooth Takeel as his lead. And it's one of those stories that as soon as you hear it, you'll immediately add it to your Star Wars headcanon. Here is Rich Alott with Snaggletooth, Takeel's Tale.
This is the story of Snaggletooth. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear R2-D2 beep like this. Let's begin now. The blaster shot cracked through the smoky air of the Mos Eisley Cantina like the echo of a rancor-snapped bone. Takeel, a stooped Snivian, his hump rising beneath a well-worn maroon tunic, had been nursing a glass of sour lum near a side-wall booth. His black, beady eyes glanced sideways just in time to see Greedo slump forward. For a parsec, no one moved. As the blaster smoke curled upward, lazy and indifferent, a Corellian stood. Cool as carbonite, he adjusted his holster, stepped out of the booth with the Rhodian's body, and tossed a coin toward the bartender. In the silence, the 1,000 credit coin's resonance could be heard as it twirled through the air, floating toward Wuher.
Sorry about the mess.
While the grimy bartender secured the coin between his palms and belly, the Bith band, as if on cue, resumed their fanfare. The patrons, momentarily deterred, restarted their conversations, although thin and forced. Takeel's nostrils twitched. He'd seen plenty in Mos Eisley. Smuggling disputes, bounty hunter feuds, arguments settled with vibroblades under tables. But this was brazen, in the open and under the Empire's nose. And Takeel knew one thing about the Empire. They paid. The Snivian turned slowly in his seat, hump shifting as he craned his neck to watch Han Solo stride toward the exit. Han moved with purpose, like someone who had a ship waiting. Docking bays, Takeel thought. The Empire had been increasing patrols on Tatooine, and Imperial stormtroopers were everywhere, asking about stolen data tapes and missing droids. A smuggler shooting someone in broad daylight? That was worth attention, maybe even a reward. Takeel slid off his stool, leaving his drink half-finished, heading for the door. Exiting the cantina, the bright twin suns stabbed his vision. He squinted, spotting the Corellian already disappearing into the winding alleyways of Mos Eisley Spaceport. Han walked quickly, but not hurriedly, with a confident gait, while Takeel shuffled in pursuit, kicking up dust with each antalgic step. Mos Eisley was a maze of sandstone corridors and drifting sand. The alleys were filled with obstacles including exhaust vents, moisture evaporators, as well as the local traders and spaceport scum. As Takeel turned a blind corner, he nearly collided with a pair of Jawas hauling scrap. They squealed, shaking metal parts at him. He waved them off, but one grabbed his sleeve. insisting he examine a very fine hyperdrive motivator. Precious seconds slipped by before he yanked free.
No, let go.
By the time he rounded the next corner, Takeel caught only a glimpse of Han's tall, broad-shouldered silhouette vanishing past a droid repair stall. The Snivian quickened his pace, breath wheezing slightly in the dry air. Suddenly, a Sauran gambler and his Nimban accountant blocked his path, gesturing angrily about a sabak debt.
Where are my credits, Snaggletooth?
Quipped the Sauran.
That's my brother Zuten.
Takeel snapped.
He owes you the credits. Can't you tell us apart? Now move!
The pair of debt collectors looked at each other, confused, as Takeel shoved past them, losing a few more precious seconds. At the edge of Docking Bay Row, Takeel stopped. There, Docking Bay 94, the Corellian and a towering Wookiee companion were disappearing inside. Takeel's pulse hammered. 94. This was it. Takeel turned sharply, abandoning stealth for speed. If he could just find a patrol, he could lead them straight to the ship and the Cantina killer. As he hurried through the main thoroughfare, daydreaming of his reward, a beat-up X-34 speeder screamed past him, forcing him to dive into a side street.
Get out of the way, Snaggletooth!
Shouted the Vouvrian driver. Takeel quickly picked himself up. While dusting off the sand from his clothes, he noticed a pair of stormtroopers questioning a evaporator technician just ahead.
Have you seen a pair of droids?
He approached the trio, cleaning his throat.
Ahem. Officers, I have information.
One of the troopers tilted his head.
Yes?
There was a shooting at Shalom's Cantina. A Corellian male, armed and dangerous. He fled to Docking Bay 94.
The troopers stiffened. The technician backed away nervously.
Docking Bay 94?
The trooper repeated.
Yes.
Takeel insisted, gesturing urgently.
You can still...
A thunderous roar split the air as all heads turned skyward. With a blast of its sublight engines and a scream of igniting thrusters, a battered freighter erupted upward. Sand and debris spiraled in a violent cyclone. The ship's hull gleamed white and scarred beneath the Tatooine suns. Takeel squinted against the wind and debris, raising his arm to cover his face. He recognized the ship from 100 dockside whispers. It was the fast one, the one that always seemed to slip past Imperial entanglements, the Millennium Falcon. The freighter tilted, engines flaring brilliant blue, and shot into the atmosphere before the troopers could even raise their comm links. The sand troopers stared upward. One turned slowly toward Takeel.
You're certain it was 94, Snaggletooth?
Takeel exhaled, shoulders sagging beneath his hump.
Well,
he hedged, glancing at the empty sky.
It was.
The Falcon vanished into the haze, leaving only drifting sand and the faint echo of engines. Takeel watched the sky a moment longer, then turned back toward the city's winding streets. The suns burned hot, and the cantina would be a cooler respite. Perhaps Wuher still had that lum waiting. This opportunity was gone, but in Mos Eisley, there was always another mess in the making.
And finally, we have Adam Throne's story about the Ithorian known as Hammerhead. How to introduce this one? The best thing I could say about it is nothing at all. It is funny and brilliant, and you really just have to hear it for yourself. It's the perfect way to end this series, with a pretty expansive history of Hammerhead. Thoroughly enjoyable and written in a charming cadence that makes it a wild ride through this character's life, or many lives. Here's Adam with his multicolor, multi-era tale.
Some Call Me Hammerhead, Moma Nedon's Tale, by Adam Throne. Some people call me the Space Cowboy. Some call me the Gangster of Love. Some people call me Maurice. Some call me Moma Nedon. Some still call me Hammerhead. I don't know why I thought of that song. It was something of its era, of its time, a little before I was conceived by the mind of the almighty bearded one. It was a time A certain special time. I'm told it was the era of something called the 70s. Me? I call myself Thorn. It's a ripple compression for Ithorian, which is my race, so I'm told. For a while, I had no race. I didn't even have a name. I never told anybody my real name. They just called me Hammerhead. Ripple compression is my language. I speak in the ripples. It doesn't really matter what you call me. No one understands me anyway. No one, not even that little mummy-looking guy who sits on my right, and the goat-faced guy across from me. They don't have names. At least they didn't at first. They didn't have action figures either. Now they do. They also have names. I didn't know their names at first, but now I do. Different places, different times. Things were once so simple, but not anymore. It's also confusing. A long time ago and far away, before West End Games, before the EU, before the dark times, before Disney. 10 years. For 10 years, I came to this place in Mos Eisley. Always the same seat in the cantina. Always at the cylinder table near the two small wall lamps. Always with the mummy and with the goat-faced guy. Sometimes it was called the Creature Cantina. Sometimes it was just Sears. I don't really understand it. It's just things I sense through my ripples. I wonder why. My name is Momarnadon. They once called me Hammerhead. I sit here day after day, sitting at this bar, rippling, just rippling into my drink. I ripple, but no one understands me. But that's okay, because people talk. They talk to me. They trust me. They trust the silent Ithorian. They tell me their problems. This is the story I lived with for many years, until the time of the West End Games. Years before anyone had heard of the Born to Eve Classic, before the Dark Times, before the prequels. Through the senses of my ripples, I somehow know that once, long before this, the great master shaper Ron Cobb conceived me. I was the speaker for my people, the archetype, if you will. After the great Bearded One read Joseph Campbell, Ron Cobb envisioned me from the contours of his mind, drew me, and shaped me into who I am today. Through my ripples, I sense I was meant to be someone else. At one time, I imagined myself sitting on a push stool that looked like a giant mushroom brain, and I myself looked like a giant tentacled mushroom. Sipping mushroom liquids, I would ripple. I was still named Hammerhead. Go look it up on the holonet. I barely had expensive tastes at that time. I was too luxurious, too unaffordable for Mos Eisley. So I was morphed into something else. Something that could be made on a shoestring budget after $1 million had been spent on one shot. I was not yet called Momonadon. I was still just Hammerhead. I was hunched over my drink with a tubal straw, pushed into what looks like a child's sippy. I was always kind of big and lumpy, perhaps because my legs were so thin they couldn't possibly support me where I stood. Through these visions, through my ripples, I see that I was once an aquatic creature from a water planet, and the eyes on my hammerhead were like a periscope. Very useful, a periscope. I wonder if that's how Indiana got to the island. Maybe he lashed his whip to a hammerhead and swam. But something clearly got lost in translation. I don't know how it happened, but from originally being an aquatic swimmer with the sippy and periscope eyes, I became a botanist from Ithor. I stood proudly over my garden on Tatooine, running my hands through the dirt, while fauna and foliage grew all round. I would tend to my garden and roll my hands through the dirt every day. I was no longer a child of Ron Cobb. I was the disciple of the great Macquarie. I looked like a taller E.T. with the same stumpy feet, but on long legs, a head with a big hard bump in the back, and a face that could smack down a stormtrooper on its own, something that sounds cool, but no one has ever seen. But I was peaceful, a peaceful denizen of Ithor, and just tended to my garden. One day I made a mistake, apparently, so they say. I was trying to protect my people on Ithor from Imperials, so I gave away important secrets. My people found out, and I was banished, exiled to Tatooine. still not sure how giving away secrets makes my people safe from Imperials. But there you have it. Maybe one day the great Tony Gilroy can make a series and explain it. He's one of our saviors in this new era of Disney. I'm a pacifist by nature. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't even carry a weapon in the movie. The action figure was wrong, all wrong from the get-go. But every creature in the cantina is dangerous, they said at Kenner. He must have a weapon, they said. Apparently, I once threatened Han Solo. I attacked him with a cry that sounded like, Nagamaroo! And then a giant hand came down, pulled a lever, and knocked me over. I died. That was that. But I know I am peaceful and friendly. I know from watching the live holovid, Life on Tatooine. It's a reality show broadcast through the galaxy to all planets, including the planet of Wookiees. On this show, I can see myself sitting at the edge of the bar, and I've never looked happier. Ackmena is the bartender's name. None of this Chalman the Cantina Wookiee owner stuff. She's a lovely woman, Ackmena. She sings and dances for us. She serves me orange squishy liquid and pats my hammerhead. I nod approvingly every time she does. She's one of the few who I would allow to do it. I love her as we all do, but it wouldn't work for us anyway. I know she's only here for the job. Some weird hole in the head guy always comes in there to see her, and she's kind to him, but indifferent. Come back soon, I'll be waiting, she says, and he's smitten. It's pathetic, but also kind of quite sweet. Through the senses of my ripples, I can see myself in another life. I'm on some kind of wooden platform. I'm with Greedo and butt-face walrus guy. Also that cool bounty hunter called Boba. And for some reason, a guy named Calrissian. Some kid scoops up me and Greedo and makes us shoot each other almost at point blank. The kid makes impressive, realistic laser sounds that go, pa-choo, pa-choo, pa-choo. None of this pew-pew-pew nonsense that seems to become the rule. Greedo's shot lands on me as I hit him. We both get thrown down and die. As I die, I can see this monstrous kid who's making us do this. The kid's having fun doing it. He's showing me off to an E.T. He doesn't know that E.T. is from my own galaxy, and that he and I are botanists and related. The universe is weirdly connected. I also know that this vision isn't real, and I'm dreaming. I know this because Greedo never hits anything. I know it will all be okay. McClunky. Through my ripples, I sense a disturbance. It's like I've lived a dozen lifetimes in a dozen bodies, both real and fleshy, and sometimes plastic. Sometimes I'm lithe and thin with a blue jumpsuit and no pants. No pants? Who does that? Sometimes my veins are curved and I have tattoos across them. Sometimes the tattoos are not there. Sometimes my eyes look down to the left instead of just to the left. I can easily sit down and stretch and cool off my legs, but they don't fit very well behind the cylindrical table. I would have to use that table as an ottoman. I'm imagining the good old days on my water planet where I can sit on mushrooms and drink my Ron Cobb mushroom drink. These changes are all very strange. Sometimes through my ripples, I can sense that I'm inside some kind of bubble attached to a large, dark, smooth, carded surface. It has a picture of me, but the picture on the card surface seems to vary. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's fuzzy, sometimes there's some kind of long silver logo font. Sometimes it's just me and another weird alien slapped next to each other into a dual bubble on a double card with a glue stick. We don't even get any privacy, but at least we get high. Oh, that's better now. Now I'm in a bubble in a time called the 90s with an orange, long background and a photo of me that's more flattering. I look more like myself. I'm a bit heavy-set and bulkier than usual, but my feet seem to be more real. I'm still carrying a weapon, even bigger than before. Who is coming up with this stuff? This is not who I am. I am peaceful. My name is Momarnadon. Some call me Hammerhead. Sometimes from my ripples I sense I gain weight and am wide, and I can't really say why. Recently, I seem to be split into two. One form was me in all my glory, Momarnadon, accurately scaled and detailed, with more than 5 points of articulation. A cloth tunic, a brown jumpsuit, still no pants. But I came in a bubble, a wide bubble, on a familiar vintage collection card back. It's like the one from 1979, only wider. It has the same picture, same vintage styling, but the card back is 20% pricier. Why is my card back so big? Why does a bigger card back cost $5 more? Oh my God, do I look fat? To add insult to injury, they seem to clone this new me. It's me with the same size and tunic, but the tunic is colored aquamarine like it used to be. The card looks the same, but it's thin, and it's packaged with my brothers from the old days, and a cardboard cantina from the world of Sears. Me, Greedo, Panda Baba. They all look older, wiser, more polished. Old Snags is there too. He's blue with long legs and silver boots, the way he used to be, but shouldn't be. Again, it's all so confusing and weird. Why would I appear twice in the same month looking like I did then versus now? What in Hasbro is going on? For my ripples, I sense it wasn't always this way, with multiple clones of me, like I said. In the era of the 70s, clones were of a mythic time. Today, post-sequel era, they are a dime a dozen, like live but extinct Jedi. Today, a fat hammerhead can be a fast-moving Jedi. Everybody has a Spartsy cloning cylinder. Any joker can come back from the dead. Okay, now this is weird. Through my ripples, I see another me. I'm sitting at the bar, but it's not Mos Eisley. It's on a station near some kind of wormhole. Species of all kinds come to talk to me, tell me their problems. People come talk and brag. We all sit at the bar, and I'm listening and rippling, just like I do in Mos Eisley. People and aliens all walk by, wearing black jumpsuits with primary colored shirts underneath. I just sit all day and watch them, next to some potato-headed guy with a lumpy head. Morn is his name. Thorn and Morn, they called us. We're a duo, a double act. Morn was a good friend until the war. War with the changelings, I'm told. Changelings fighting these people here with their black jumpsuits and blue, yellow, and red undershirts. They tell me I don't belong there, that I got mixed in with a girlfriend's collection. They broke up, and now they're sending me away in a ship called a runabout. So much for preaching tolerance. Bombad Trekkies always think that they are better than us. From my ripple senses, I sense that I traveled through that wormhole, and it put me back in that galaxy far, far away. I crossed over universes like a Marty Starchild. I don't question, I just am. I sit at bars and I ripple. Some call me Hammerhead. Why is this happening? How is this all happening? I know it's my ripples, but how? There are some who say that in one universe, people may have a certain power. I never even thought about it for decades when I sat down inside that cantina to sip my mushroom drink and sit with the mummy-faced guy. I never thought I could have that power. All I wanted to do was enjoy my afternoon before it got disrupted by the old man and the boy with those stormtroopers. Man, stormtroopers really piss me off. But I'm a pacifist. I'm peaceful. I'm an Ithorian. My name is Thorn, not Momonadon. Some call me Hammerhead. There's a legend that at one time, Ithorians were treated like slaves by the Imperials. Imperials loved to exclude us and others from their ranks and often come up with these derogatory names. Hammerhead is bad enough, although it does describe what we look like. I wonder how a hammerhead shark feels about that. I would definitely not like being called Jaws. The name that's even worse is Leatherneck. I know on Earth it has different connotations, but here it's just rude and mean. Pretty sure it's of Imperial origin. Imperials are all jerks. Now I'm back. I can sense through my ripples. Back in the cantina. Ackmena is nowhere to be seen. Good, there's Wooher, the unkempt bartender. Oh, crap, there's a stormtrooper. And the second one. They're looking around the cantina. Who? Oh, what are they looking for? I hear whispers. There are rumors of some kid, an old man, and some droids. But those guys left a long time ago, and Han already shot Greedo. Or Greedo shot Han? I can't keep up anymore. But why? Why would stormtroopers come here? Hey, you, one of them calls to me. What's your name, Hammerhead? I nod politely. Hey, the trooper says again. Hey, I asked you your name. Yes, I say to myself. Some call me Hammerhead. You think he's the one, says the other stormtrooper. Oh, no. They must sense that I'm using my ripples. They must sense that I can use the Force. Maybe like Filoni, maybe they think I'm a Jedi. Hey, the trooper says, even louder through his radio. Hey, I asked you a question. He can't answer you, grunts Ruher. Ithorians use a translator. They don't talk. I'm not asking you, ugly barkeep, the trooper barks. He's on his high bantha, that's for sure. I call him an asshole in my compression ripple language. Good thing no one understands me anyway. I've had it, said the trooper. I think he's just playing dumb. Let's bring him to the troop transporter for questioning. He breaks out some binders and a black prisoner immobilization unit. He starts to advance toward me. Oh, crap. This is really happening. I'm just a peaceful Ithorian. I don't use weapons. That's not who I am. That's not me. The trooper steps closer and tries to grab me by the arm. Come here, Hammerhead, he snarls. I flinch. The other trooper circles around and raises his blaster. I can sense that he doesn't want to do this, but he's not the one in charge. He's got no choice. The leader reaches and grabs at my hammerhead. The other stands, weapon poised. The leader swings at me with his arm again, and it lands right on my bumpy top brain. Hey, Hammerhead, you better listen good, he says. I'm going to say this once. Come with me, and you won't get hurt. I sit and I stare at him, my eyes looking left and sideways. 1, says the trooper. I stare at him. 2, he says. I still stare. 3, he says. All right, that's it. He steps forward. The other trooper actually tries to use reason. Hammerheads are pacifists, he says to me. I know you won't try anything, So just come along and we'll all be just fine. Oh, yeah, the more stormtrooper grunts. They're just pacifists and botanists and don't know much about the universe. He folds his arms. They're just big squishies, right? I think this one's faking it. I think this Hammerhead is just dumb. Unless he's pretending to be dumb. Unless he's pretending. He's just pretending to be a useless Hammerhead. I just stare into my sippy and drink. Or maybe, he says, his helmet getting into my face, maybe he's just a useless leatherneck. Something deep stirs within me. A force I've never felt before. A force born of both peace and of anger. I know my whole life has been building toward this. I am not an Authorian. I am not Momarnadon. I'm not even Thorn or Botanist. I am a child of the great Bearded One. I'm a child of the Bearded One, Ron Cobb, Macquarie, and the minds of 1 million voices crying out in terror. Some call me useless. Some call me background. Some call me a cash grab. Some call me weird. Some call me vintage. Some call me Nagamaru. But I know who I am in my heart and what I stand for. I swivel my hammerhead around, and it knocks the trooper back. So the side, he lands against my head bump and falls down. My head bump contains my brain, but our bumps are tough, and us leathernecks are thick-skinned. I have no translator box to scream, but through my ripples, the force rips out. It shreds the trooper into 1 million fibers. The other trooper drops his gun and runs out of the cantina. Everything stops for a moment. The band resumes. People go back to their drinks. And now they're looking at me in awe. What? Says Mummy Face. What did you do? I sip my drink quietly, and I ripple. Wilher passes me a beer. What's your name, son? Says Goatface. It's clearly not Leatherneck. For the first time, real words emit from my sides as I ripple. It doesn't really matter what you call me, I say. No one really understands me anyway. I call myself Thorn, or a friend of Morn. I'm a visitor to Tatooine, Earth, and dozens of worlds. Some call me a pacifist. Some call me a botanist. Some call me an aquatic periscope shock man. Some call me Mawanadon. You can call me anything you want. They look at me approvingly. Some, I say, some still call me Hammerhead.
Hi, I'm Adam Throne, and I'm the writer behind Some Call Me Hammerhead, Momonadon's Tale. And this came about just because I really wanted to try something different. I asked Jason, does this have to be in old continuity, new continuity, any continuity? He's like, do whatever you want. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go back to the days when the character of Hammerhead was just known as Hammerhead and take it from there. So he muses on his life, the different iterations from West End Games to all kinds of minutia in the Star Wars universe, and had a lot of fun with it. The reaction I got from first reading was pretty positive. Someone called it a drunken fan nostalgia trip, and I guess that's pretty accurate. So I hope you enjoy my reading of Some Call Me Hammerhead.
So that is the complete collection of stories that our friends wrote, voiced, and produced for the Tales of Scum and Villainy anthology. I'd like to thank Jason Wasulko for giving us a reason to use our imaginations within the Star Wars universe, and to collaborate as a group on this project. And a huge thank you to Jason, Rich Alott, Hannah Bennett, Jerry Hancock, Danny Katzel, Sean Moynihan, and Adam Throne. Your stories were so exciting to read, and each of you put your passion and your all into crafting them. Thank you for sharing them in print and in these audio episodes. And thank you for joining us for a trip to the Mos Eisley Cantina for Tales of Scum and Villainy. It's time for me to head home. I'm going to settle my bill, pay my tab, grab my droids, and head back to the moisture farm. But I have a feeling this won't be the last of our adventures, or the last of these types of tales. I hope you enjoyed this series, and if you did, please reach out to the authors on social media and thank them for their creative contributions. See you next time, here on Star Wars, Prototypes and Production.